Wheel is spinning, that means the YouTube app is trying to go live, and I imagine at this point it is. Welcome everybody to Alloy 7. As always, I'm your host, Brian, or BC as some folks like to call me here. Got a really great discussion for all of you tonight. I'm pretty fired up to have it with you because I spend a huge majority of my time helping clients, helping other creators, and a lot of the free stuff that I do, and helping folks in our Ninja Academy address this issue. We got some humor. We're going to have some fun tonight too. Okay, it's not just going to be a boring lecture. I've actually got some anecdotes, some stories that are going to be tied into this that I think you're really going to enjoy, especially for those of you who are familiar with some of the comedy references that I'm going to make tonight. So this idea, is your social media marketing backwards? All right, nothing we're going to share tonight is overly complicated. If you've been here for a while, you understand that I like to keep things as simple as possible. What I won't promise you, though, is that a lot of what I'm going to tell you that you need to implement isn't necessarily going to be easy. It's not always going to come naturally to you, and it's going to take time and practice for you to actually get good at it. Because what we've got to do tonight is start the process, or today if you're watching this during the day, some of my friends in the UK, it's morning, or some of my friends in India who are watching as well. The rewiring of your mind is a process that we're going to start tonight. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you understand that I dedicate a lot of time to deprogramming us. And I say us because me as well. I am susceptible to the same media and nonsense that's written all over blogs and television. If you've seen my other channel, you saw a video I did called "The Media is Controlling You." Don't worry, it's not Illuminati, the nonsense that you see all over the internet because people know they can make that crap and get a ton of views. It's more rooted in our psychology and our biology, the things that drive marketing. Okay, you're going to find out as you go through my programs, especially for those of you who are in our Ninja Academy, for example, and who go through the programs of the people I recommend you to, because I don't recommend you just learn from me. There are other people out there doing amazing things. And we really start to boil marketing down and take it out of the context of the jargon and take it out of the how we conflate that term with 90 different things. Like we think marketing is making posts on Twitter, and it's not really that focused. Marketing is really little more, first of all, than storytelling, and then two, it's really having an understanding of human psychology and human biology and what actually drives us and influences us to take action. And the best marketers in the world understand those things, and they're able to get people to take action. You know, a lot of people, I caught some flack for comments that I made about Donald Trump. I'm not going to get into a political thing. Anybody that's been around me long enough knows that I'm about the most apolitical person on the planet. Give me my 40 acres and a mule. Let me go out to my farm and leave me alone. That's kind of my take. You know, or you can look at like the wealthy people of throughout history who really didn't care much for who ran the policy of countries as long as they were tied to the country's money. In a way that they were able to make their income and take care of their families without having to worry about the individual social, you know, policies that were being purported by the important politicians. Anyway, the point I'm making is I made some comments about Donald Trump many months ago in that he is an expert marketer. He's one of the best at it in the world. And make no mistake, his ability to win an election was deeply rooted in his understanding of human biology and human psychology and how that ties into marketing. All right. And so whether you like him, whether you love him, I'm not here to tell you either way. I'm pretty ambivalent when it comes to politics in general. But the point is, the people who are the best at marketing in the world understand and can predict human behavior. Right? Because human behavior is actually not that hard to predict if you understand what you're doing. But as it relates to what you're doing in social media, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're a small business who's been following me, looking for ways to maybe create brand awareness, looking for ways to generate leads, to generate potential clients that are going to come into your business using YouTube, using social media. I want to, if you're not already there, start to challenge some of the existing things that may be in your mind that you're going to see over here in column number 1. All right, this is where a lot of people, most people, myself included, for a long time lived. You know, when I first got started, I thought it was all about how much noise can I make out there in the ether, and hopefully someone will eventually hear me and then think, oh, this guy is amazing, let's go check him out. And unfortunately, it really just doesn't work that way, even if you're good. Okay, so we want to address some of the things. And it's not to say that we don't do those things. It's not to say that what we're going to talk about here over in column 1 isn't important, but the way we prioritize it is really what the focus is tonight. So with that said, it's a very long introduction. I want to say hello to everybody that's here. We got Dark Dally iFlames 300. We've got Roast Coffee 2BG. We got the Guardian Soul Blade. AM/PM Games is here. We have Raven and Prod Charles. We got a lot of ninjas, a lot of people in our Ninja Academy. So thank you very much, and I'm honored to all of the new ninjas that we have, and especially our new VIPs. I actually had some people sign up just tonight for our VIP program. I want to thank you, and I want to say that we are dedicated to help you get to where you're trying to go, because remember, our entire thing that we do here is driven by you all succeeding, not me being smart and me succeeding. All right, so we definitely want to take an active role and help you do that. But let's get into this idea of social media marketing, and is it backwards? And here's what I mean by that. Those of you who are in social media marketing, if you're a YouTuber, you're in it. Whether you're making entertainment, you're a gamer, you're a musician, you're a small business, you're a DIY channel, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you've got to do some marketing. The challenge is, most of us have been led to believe that the bulk of our effort needs to be on the creative side of the process, right? So we've got a first. I have it as number 5. It's really not a number here. It's the overarching thing. So let me actually identify that. Here is where most of us start. I've got to come up with the awesome idea that's going to set me apart from everybody else. The thing that's just going to make me amazing, right? And so we go into our brainstorming, wherever we go to brainstorming, we try to come up with a great idea. And then a lot of the creators, especially those of you who've been emailing me lately, when I asked you to start sending me your challenges, one of the recurring themes you see is, I'm having trouble coming up with the idea. I'm having trouble coming up with that one idea that's going to set me apart and make me a person who has 1 million subscribers, or a person who's able to make money, passive income every month because I'm uploading videos or I'm putting things out on Twitter, Facebook, and etc. And side note, by the way, those of you who are in the YouTube Ninja Academy, I'm in the process now of actually being certified by one of the world's premier social media marketers in all of social media. So I intend, we'll see how this pans out. I intend to take the YouTube Ninja Academy and broaden it to a social media Ninja Academy that's not just focused on YouTube. YouTube will still be a huge part of it. Don't worry, we're not getting away from it. In fact, what we're looking to do is add value. More on that later, because I'm still figuring out the details of how we're going to do that. But as I go through this certification process, because I believe I've got to make myself the greatest that I can be if I'm going to actually be able to help people. It's like Jay-Z said, I can't help poor people if I'm one of them. I can't help people do something if I'm not getting the most education and knowledge about the process that I possibly can. But all of us, and I say us because I have been here. Okay, I've been here as a musician, I've been here as a social media marketing coach, I've been here as a YouTuber, I've been here as an employee. What's the idea that's going to set me apart? The idea that I'm going to come up with that's going to be so different and so unique that the world is just going to flock to what I'm doing. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm sorry, there really is no such thing. Okay? And some of you may immediately argue with that. You'll say, well, Bill Gates started Microsoft. You'll say, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook. But the point I'm trying to make is not that good ideas aren't necessary. It's that you thinking that you're going to have some crazily unique idea that's not derivative of something that existed before is a myth. Okay, there's an ancient proverb. It was actually originally written by King Solomon in the Bible, and he says, there's nothing new under the sun. You've probably heard that proverb. You may not know where it comes from. Pretty sure it comes from the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. I may have the address wrong, but it's King Solomon that made that quote, or at least the first documented version of that quote. I'm sure someone probably said it to him, years before he said it, maybe his father, King David. He said there's nothing new under the sun. So when you look at Facebook, I'm going to give you an example, okay, of just how not how you shouldn't prioritize this. I've got to come up with this banging idea that nobody else has thought of. The idea of Facebook it's really not different in what its utility is than email. And people are like, wait a minute, because you can do status updates, you can add pictures and all these things. Yes, that's true. But when you look at what the utility of Facebook actually provides, it's just an evolution of existing communication platforms. In this particular case, you had telephones back in the day, and we had snail mail, and we still do have snail mail, right? In other words, getting something in your mailbox. That's going to be eventually replaced by drones and Amazon flying things to your house, right? Maybe not completely replaced, but it's being replaced to a certain degree. So Amazon flying things to your house isn't a brand new idea. It's just an improvement on something that exists before. So we used to get letters in the mail. My grandparents sent letters to one another. Our generation thinks that's insane because we've had access to email since the 1990s. So email was just a new version, an improved version of something that existed before, right? Facebook is just an extension with slightly more advanced features that does the same utility of email, which is keeping people in contact, sharing information. Same thing goes for Twitter, same thing goes for Pinterest, same thing goes for all of these different channels and platforms. Now, the way we use them to communicate when you're trying to do social media marketing can be very different. Same thing goes for YouTube. YouTube is a way to connect human beings through video, through personal interaction. And actually, when you look at it from a psychology perspective, one of the reasons why YouTube is so powerful is because it allows you to have a tangible connection with the person who's presenting, right? That's why reality TV took off. It's not because the stories were amazing. The stories are the exact same stories you've been hearing since the beginning of time. It's that you feel like you have a personal connection with the people on screen. YouTube capitalized on that, right? If you know the history of YouTube, you understand that it actually started as a dating service. It was called Tune In, Hook Up, right? That's what YouTube was before it became YouTube. It was Tune In, Hook Up, and it was this dating service where instead of going to eHarmony or one of the other million ones that are out there now, you could actually record yourself on video and send that to a potential date. Well, it failed. Everybody just basically turned it into a thing where we laughed at people's videos, right? But what YouTube figured out when they started looking at their analytics was nobody's getting dates, but everybody is loving watching the most compelling videos, whether they're funny or whether the person's awkward, that personal connection. So they figured, let's make it YouTube, let's open it up to the public and allow everyone to start sharing videos in a way that and if you remember before YouTube, viral video used to go through email. Again, YouTube's not new. It's just evolving what was happening before, which was my cousin back in 2000, 2001, when I think he was probably, I want to say back then he was 14 or 15, and he used to send me emails with video, like, if you remember Wesley Willis, Rock and Roll McDonald's, the guy that he basically, I think he struggled with schizophrenia, but he was an artist and a musician, and people made fun of him for years, but then eventually he became highly popular because he was so endearing. It was like this person who's the kindest, gentlest person in the world, but clearly has a social disorder, is making this music that's, the music in and of itself to the naked eye is crazy, but it's so endearing and so catchy. Well, we knew about Wesley Willis long before YouTube ever had his videos because we were sharing that over email because there was a connection there, right? YouTube is the same principle. It's that human connection that email had, that snail mail had when grandma, I wrote physical letters when I was in combat because I didn't have daily access to email. It's a little bit different now because when I was there, we were the guys that were, in the forefront. So we were out, deep in enemy territory. There was really no coming home at night to email and connectivity like it's set up now. It was very austere living conditions. So I was writing letters to my wife back home. I didn't have kids at the time, but I was writing letters to my wife like, I love you, everything's okay, I'm safe, I just want to make sure you're okay, etc., etc. So YouTube, same principle. But the point here is this thought that you're going to come up with some crazy idea that nobody else has ever thought of. It's just a myth. And you're going to waste a lot of time if you continue to prioritize this. Now, that doesn't say that you don't need to be able to distinguish yourself, to be able to come up with a unique selling point or a value proposition. We call it USP in sales. What is my unique selling point? What sets me apart from another social media marketing coach? You know, well, for example, I have a ton of business training and business experience in Fortune 500 and running my, so there's things that I can use to distinguish myself. I don't want to give you my resume. I'm just using that as an example. Okay. There's things, I have military experience. So I have led large groups of people, large operations in environments where people were trying to kill me. That means my dedication to getting something done and my ability to handle pressure is going to be higher than someone who doesn't have that experience. Okay. Again, not giving you my resume, just showing you how you can distinguish yourself. But what I'm doing is not brand new. I'm teaching you marketing and social media and growing, you know, like I was certified in YouTube audience growth. And for the sake of this video, just so you guys understand, I'm still working with YouTube to get that certification renewed. For whatever reason, when it expired, I didn't get a message. And like when I log into my certification space, it still shows me as certified. I'm like, but this certification is old. So I had to go to my partner manager, like, how do I renew this? And she's like, oh, just send an email. YouTube's back-end systems are not fully fleshed out. That's what I'm trying to say there. So just for in the interest of full disclosure, understand that my certification did expire and I'm working with YouTube to get it renewed. But I've been through the certification program for audience growth. So helping you grow an audience is not something new. Tim Schmoyer does it. Daryl Eves does it. Roberto Blake does it. Other YouTubers do it from time to time because it helps them boost their watch time and it helps them feel, not helps them feel, but in some ways they want to give back to the community of other YouTubers that watch them. But this concept that you're going to come up with this amazing idea that's just going to set you apart. You're going to spend a lot of time coming up with this and then you're going to be disappointed because two things are going to happen. One, if it's a really good idea, somebody already has it. Two, if it's a really niche idea that's weird and nobody's thought of it, trust me, somebody's thought of it, but people smarter than us have realized that it can't work. So that's why they're not doing it. It's the same thing in business. When I'm working with people who want to start a business, I was talking, my brother's looking at, so I have an older brother who's quite a bit older than me that's retired from the military, for example. We're talking about options for him to start a business. And so walking him through what you want to do is you want to go into an industry where there already is success. You don't want to be brand new. You want to go somewhere where the path is proven. You know, you don't want to, well, this is a brand new business that no one's ever thought of. No, someone's thought of it. The reason why no one's doing it is because smart people who've been in business for a long time know that that business can't work. Okay. Well, same thing goes for a YouTube channel. If you're not a business person, if you're an entertainer, it's the same thing. You coming up with some insanely different thing is not necessarily going to work in your favor because the reason why no one's doing it is because other smart people have figured out that's probably not something that anybody wants to see. And that's one of the biggest problems I find with the YouTubers I work with is I'm not getting the growth. I'm not getting the whatever it is I want. And I'm like, the very simple truth without digging into your analytics and doing a channel evaluation, which I don't really like to do because it takes a lot of time. That's why I don't advertise that I do that. But there are specific cases with certain businesses, if they can afford it, they can come to me and say, hey, I need you one-on-one, and because they're willing to pay. My time is very expensive because I have a family and a bunch of other things. But the point is helping you understand that you want to go into an area where there's already success. We've got to get you in that vein and get you focused. But what I find with a lot of creators I work with is they're not getting any of the interaction or the growth they want because simply their idea is not something that anybody else wants. And what you're going to see in tonight's discussion is they think it's problems with, number one, recording. They think it's problems with editing. Or how do I promote my videos on social media? That's one of the questions that's very hard for me to answer because it's, if you ever heard of like duality, like it's, you don't promote the way you're talking about promoting on social media, but you do need to promote on social media. So it's hard to answer that question in a very simple way because the way they're thinking about promoting on social media is not promoting, it's spamming. And I have to kind of deprogram them from, no, you're not just going to go to Reddit and Twitter and throw a bunch of links up there and think anybody's going to watch that. In fact, your followers on Twitter who even like your stuff probably aren't watching it. They're just liking it because they like you. Okay? Those are things that you learn when you work this for a very long time. But the same principle comes into play when it's, you do need to promote, but the way that you promote is by giving somebody something that they want. So if you're spending all of your time and your energy in this 90-10 rule, which we're going to get into in a second, trying to come up with the winning idea, that's probably not the best use of your time. Because you need a good idea, you need a proven system that's already working, and then you need to figure out how you can distinguish yourself in that realm to get the success that you want to see. Okay, so 9 times out of 10, when people come to me and they're just completely stagnant, I have folks that I work with who've been on YouTube almost 10 years and they've seen very, very little growth. And the very simple, hard truth is you're not making something people want to see. Or you're not making something people want to see consistently. You may have 1 or 2 hits here and there, but you're not constantly putting out, like if you look at the Beatles, those dudes put out good, like you may love them or hate them, but the fact of the matter is, by and large, they made great music. Some will argue objectively, I didn't care for their arrangements or whatever. The Beatles put out great music to the rest of the world. And they put it out every single year. They were giving the world what the world wanted. They weren't trying to make the world buy into their crazy idea. Well, and that's nuanced too, because sometimes a crazy idea can actually work, but the crazy idea still needs to be rooted, again, in human psychology and human biology, things that humans want or need. All right? And the more you can understand what human beings want, or at least the people that you want to reach, the better you can understand, which was what we're going to get over to here in the second column. The better you can understand those things, the better you can reach people, the better you can grow, the better you can see whatever your definition of success is. So what happens is most of the people I work with focus on, I need to spend all my time recording, editing, publishing, promoting, and coming up with these great ideas. Okay, there's literally websites you can go to on the internet where you can buy ideas. So if ideas were that valuable, could you really go on the internet and pay $100 and get 1,000 of them? Right? So what most people do in this 90-10 rule is they spend 90, and if you're on my email list, you saw me email this out. It was an email titled How to Boost Your Search Ranking. We're going into a lot more detail tonight because if this were an email, it'd be like 7 pages long and no one would read it. So what most people do, business owners, creators, YouTubers, social media gurus, what they do is they spend 90% of their time trying to come up with what videos are we going to make? I need to make sure my editing is great. What kind of camera should I buy? What type of microphone do you use, B, when you do your Let's Plays on your gaming hobby channel? I need to know what kind of microphone you use because your voice sounds so good. And so people get this idea that what's winning is the fact that Markiplier has an amazing voice. And whatever microphone he's using, I clearly need that microphone because that's what's going to lead to my success. And most people wouldn't admit to that that's how they think, but in your mind, even if you don't think you think that way, you behave that way. Because though you're asking, what microphone do you use instead of what's your strategy? What's your overarching strategy that's governing all of this? Because this stuff is important. Don't misunderstand what I'm talking about tonight. It's not that all of these things and getting them right and doing them well isn't important. It's that the problem is you are over prioritizing it. You're spending 90% of your time on tactics. Okay? And like a wise man once said, tactics without strategy without tactics is the longest route to victory. Tactics without strategy, did I say that right? Strategy without tactics is the longest road to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So if you're focusing all the way over here and you have none of the stuff that we're going to talk about over in this column, then you're probably going to lose. And you're going to lose quickly, all right? So, but if you get everything over here right, and then you don't do any of this, you're going to win, but it's going to take a long time. And by the way, Sun Tzu is often the person who's quoted as saying that quote. It's not. That quote is unattributed. I don't know who said it. It's not in The Art of War. People say, in The Art of War, Sun Tzu said he didn't. I've read it many times. It's not in there. Just from my sticklers for quotes. Now, I think we're good over here. Let's take some questions before I move on to the second column, which is where we're really going to get the win tonight. Let's take some comments, some questions. So Dark Mistress says, the Beatles had a lot of haters too. Yes, they did. Absolutely had a lot of haters. Remember when John said they were bigger than Jesus? You know, it's funny because I wonder if in context he meant that he thought he was greater than Jesus, or was he trying to say that the world pays more attention to the Beatles than Jesus? Because I can tell you, the world certainly pays a lot more attention. It just based on Google Analytics, the world pays a lot more attention to Minecraft than they do Jesus, except on Easter. Like if you look at the graph of Jesus searches, right around Easter, there's a huge spike, and then it's like, okay, we don't need to hear about Jesus anymore on the internet, like the internet anyway. So yes, they did have a lot of haters, and they still do actually. Raven says, I have two plans. One is what has been done lots, but I think I found a new view on it, and my other is more my interest with hope people will like it and find it interesting. Okay, cool. Dark Dally says, so far I've been sticking with what works and grows my channel, but I know I can't do it forever. So every other video or so, I kind of test it. So that's great. What you're talking about is doing experimentation. And that's a good thing. Especially when your channels are smaller, it's great to do experimentation like that. So I'd say that's you are on the right path. Doubling down on what works, but every once in a while throw something in there to see how people respond to it. Because you're right. Eventually, an idea and the marketing around an idea can begin to stagnate, and what you have to do is innovate. I'll give you a perfect example of companies innovating. The iPhone. You get a new one every year. Do you really need an iPhone 7S Plus? No, you don't need that at all. But they understand that making those small tweaks and giving the customer base something that's new and improved is the way that they stay relevant, and they can get marketing around the changes. So for example, the 7 came out and it removed the headphone jack, which is great and terrible. Here's why. The headphone jacks on iPhones suck because the headphone cord is like 8 inches long. So unless you're holding your phone right here, you can, in fact, I use my phone to record, so I can't demonstrate it. Well, yes, I can. So one of the things that sucks about, I mean, you can buy your own headphones. It's not really that big a deal. But iPhones headsets are insanely short. You know how hard it is for me to be in the gym? And so when I'm lifting weights, especially like on a night where I'm doing my chest work, right? Trying to get my Arnold Schwarzenegger on. And I tuck it through my shirt, and like, so my iPod has to sit right here because that's as far as it'll go. And the minute I sit on the bench with, you know, my 120-pound dumbbells, whatever it is I'm doing that day, as soon as I put the dumbbells down, it hits my iPod and my music goes off because the stupid cord is so short. So Apple's like, okay, cool, you hate our headphones? Then we're just going to get rid of the jack altogether. We're going to make them into Bluetooth headphones or whatever technology they're using to do that. The problem with that is the other thing that sucks about earbuds is for people with tiny ears like mine, they don't stay in there. All right, so those are the things. But the point is, companies are always looking to do small innovations to their products and services because that's what keeps them relevant, and that's what keeps them being able to provide continual service to their folks. And the same thing goes with a YouTube channel. If you keep making the exact same thing forever, eventually your audience is going to fatigue. All right, if you're doing, I mean, unless what you're doing is just something that is well established as something like when you're doing music, for example, that would be slightly different because the world is never going to stop liking music. All right, now, if you put out the same song every week, you'd fatigue. But as long as you're putting out good music, you'd be okay. You wouldn't have to necessarily. But the fact that you're making new music is proving my point. You're innovating every time you put out a new track, a new song, a new album. Okay, so my point to Dark Dally is you're doing a good thing. Always experiment. I say don't experiment necessarily too crazily, because you always want to be congruent. Like my channel here centers around coaching folks on how to do things on social media. If tomorrow I uploaded a random comedy video, it would be really out of place. Like it wouldn't be an experiment. It would be a, what in the world is this guy doing? Like he went from last night coaching us on all these business principles and marketing principles, and today he just did a comedy skit with Arsenio Hall. Like we don't know what to like it's too not congruent. Okay, so your experiments still want to be around the theme of whatever it is that you do. All right, sweet. Dark Mistress says Apple headphones and earbuds have always been the worst. Yeah, I typically have I actually use my cheap gaming headphones when I work out because they're actually really good headphones. I just take the microphone out of them because I don't use them for gaming anymore. I have a different, more expensive headset now, but and I game very little at this point in my life. It's sad how much I don't spend on what used to be one of my favorite hobbies. All right, so get a different brand of headphones. Yes, I absolutely do. I just wanted to illustrate the point because I still do have I use my earbuds when I'm in bed because wearing headphones is a pain. Like when I go to sleep, I usually that's when I listen to my coaching, and usually before bed is when I listen to my spiritual coaching because I want to go to bed with I don't want to necessarily be listening to business coaching before I go to sleep because that's going to keep me up. When I go to bed is when I listen to my spiritual coaches. All right, like my preachers and my favorite preachers throughout history or different people. Like I watched a special on C.S. Lewis, who's the guy that wrote Chronicles of Narnia. Obviously, he's not in it because he's, may he rest in peace. But it was about him and interviewing people that knew him and had connection with him. So I'll watch something like that before I fall asleep because it keeps my mind in a good space and focused on the positive things that I like to do. Like a Tony Robbins, for example, does that in the morning. Like you see him do his morning meditations. He'll be listening to coaching before he works out and does his thing. But yeah, so I'll use my Apple earbuds for that. All right. So Jeff James says, what about channels dedicated to Call of Duty and stuff like that? So it's okay to have a channel dedicated to Call of Duty, but like I said earlier, you have to come up with whatever your unique selling point is or your value proposition that's going to set you apart from the literally other thousands of people doing Call of Duty content. And it can be done. A friend of mine named Johnny is very successful doing Call of Duty content. And it's because he focuses on not just playing zombies, but understanding all of the storytelling. Storytelling's important, especially from a marketing perspective, surrounding the zombies games. And he basically, when he's playing, and he's very good at the game, so he's fun to watch, but he can weave the story into what you need to know about this level is that here we're going to be combating, and I don't know anything about Call of Duty Zombies because I personally couldn't care less, but I've watched Johnny's channel to learn from him and to know what he's doing, that he's doing well. And because he's a friend of mine, I like to support him when I can. And so, he's very well versed in the lore. And that's something I've never seen any other channels do. I mean, they don't. It just means I haven't seen it. So he's distinguished himself. He can do Call of Duty content. He can rank well for longer tail search terms versus trying to just get Call of Duty Advanced Warfare gameplay, which none of you are going to rank for unless you're a huge channel. And then he grows his audience organically, but eventually he becomes a big channel that can start to rank for stronger search terms. Right? Because he has the subscriber base that's going to get him the viewership and the watch time on those search terms very early after he releases a video. And that's some of the ninja stuff we teach our black belts in the academy. It's not just, I'm telling you conceptually how that works, but in the academy we tell people how to do that. All right, so you can totally do Call of Duty content. You just have to be smart about how you do it. A lot of the other people out there in the world are going to say, don't do that, there's a million other people doing it. Well, the fact that there's a million other people doing it is good news because that means it works. But what's going to make it tough for you is how do you distinguish yourself, because it is what's called a red ocean in business. In other words, there's thousands of other businesses in the same space as you competing for attention. What are you going to do differently? And what I typically tell my ninjas in the academy is with gaming, you have basically two choices. Either be really, 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 really good and knowledgeable about a specific game or a type of game, or be the funniest person on the planet that's fun to watch. It's really kind of the two options you have when it comes to gaming. And there's some nuance to that because there's some more historical channels. But again, those historical channels are very, very, very knowledgeable about the history of gaming. And those channels don't typically do as well as other channels out there in the world. So yeah, it's not that you can't do Call of Duty content. It's just you're going to run into challenges because there's a ton of competition. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if you know what you're doing. All right? So Dark Dally says, so when I say testing the waters, I'm trying to find what it is that I can carry over and still get the same quality. Okay. So Sorrowful M, the Maple Story veteran, says, not many people touch on the size of your target market or audience. I'm one of the biggest channels for my game in English, but that's just not a lot of people into which it sucks. Yeah, so in our blue belt, so we take, when you become a ninja, you got kind of 3 phases. There's green belt, blue belt, and black belt in our academy. And in the blue belt phase, I actually show people how to do that market research, specifically where to go to do it. Unfortunately, YouTube is not really where you go to do it, which is, YouTube's got to get better at releasing content to their creators, or releasing data to their creators. Google is extremely close hold when it comes to statistics, and for good reason, because their business model centers around selling ads. So if they start giving away all their proprietary information, they're going to lose competitive edge. So I get that. But there are ways to go out and do market research. So like when I first started coaching, I focused on gamers. It didn't take me very long to figure out, and especially once I got coached on how to do better market research myself, and that's the coaching that I pass on to the blue belt phase of our program. Once I got coached on how to better do it and start doing it, I was like, oh, the reason why I wasn't seeing the growth that I wanted to see was that the audience that I targeted was insanely small. I mean, less than 100,000 people. So all these people trying to get huge channels, there's no way, the way I was doing Alloy 7 in the beginning of coaching, not when I was doing gaming content, there was no way my channel was going to ever get bigger than maybe 20,000 people, because the entire market was barely over that would be interested in what I was creating. It's not the entire market, but the ones that would potentially be interested in what I was creating was extremely small. So I had to, make some decisions to where, okay, not only was that market small, but demographically that market doesn't necessarily want what I do. So I had to adjust. I was like, well, I've been working with businesses doing their web development, web design, and marketing for years. Why don't I just bring that? Why don't I add a YouTube piece to that for small businesses who are trying to do things, like I said, like lead generation? And why don't I help other types of channels who have a more entrepreneurial focus? Because by and large with gamers, you find that they're a little bit more, they want to be solo entertainers, and they approach YouTube like they want it to be their job, versus people like me who use YouTube as a platform to reach people and establish a business. Not saying that either one is better than the other, it's just 2 different approaches. And because my focus was more on wanting to work with entrepreneurial minded people, focusing exclusively on gamers wasn't really congruent with my goals. And that's not to say there's plenty of gamers who do have that entrepreneurial mindset, but by and large, most of the folks that I was encountering were folks that just were hoping to become the next PewDiePie in terms of popularity and being able to draw a large audience and just live off of like AdSense revenue. So you're absolutely correct. We teach people specifically how to go out and do that market research, and it's still developing. You guys got to remember, social media is still very new. So even people like me who have been coaching at it for a while, we're still learning too, because things are always changing. New platforms, new channels are always being added. Snapchat, for example. We haven't figured everything out about Snapchat yet. Now, I understand how the channel is used, and there's a ton of brands that don't use it well, by the way. So there's ways to make it work, but we don't know the whole story yet. Facebook even 6 years ago was very different than the way I use Facebook today. And Facebook, the way it promoted your content and it showed your content to people, is completely different now. When you log in now, you see viral videos all the time, because they understand that they've got to keep the attention of people if they want to be able to sell them ads, get them onto other platform things where Facebook is actually generating revenue for their business. So yeah, definitely want to do market research, which is one of the things we're going to talk about. It's a good segue into column number 2. Here, let's see what else we got. Cool. So this other piece over here, let's go ahead and get into it. So this isn't going to be a number 4. This is just going to be what drives this section. Okay. All right. So the other thing that people do focus on, but they don't focus on it enough, is this. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember what I labeled these as. All right. Oh, my bad. That's why I'm tripping. There's no ting at the end of what I'm trying to say. So the first one here is market research, and that's exactly what we were just talking about. It's a good segue into this next piece. Most people do not, they spend so much time coming up with their idea, and then their hope is, I've got this great idea, so now the market is just going to come find me because I'm making the thing that's amazing, or I'm amazing. You know what I mean? And while we never come out and say that because we don't want to be arrogant, the way we behave very much says that. It's, I'm going to make this awesome thing, and hopefully I'm going to be able to share it on Reddit and Twitter and all these other places, and people are just going to love it and think it's amazing. That's not how it ever works. There's like, I was watching the documentary on Jay-Z, and it was what, he's not in it. It's an unofficial documentary, but it was just showing how nobody liked him at first. When he first started, nobody would work with him from a record label perspective. And like even his first record deal was this weird shady, he wasn't getting paid properly. You know, now you think about Jay-Z and he's the best rapper that's ever lived. And I'm not saying that he's the best. I'm saying that's the world perception, is that he's the best that's ever lived. He's certainly the most successful. But what you don't realize is how many years that dude was rapping in the 80s, man. Like, he was rapping forever before you got to 1996, and he's now known. All right, he had been rapping 10 years before anybody even knew who he was, with the songs he did with Foxy Brown and Notorious B.I.G. Right? So then he hits the scene, and it's like, oh, overnight success, Jay-Z. It's like BS. This dude's been rapping since the 80s with his mentor. By the way, one of the reasons why he's insanely successful is because he has had a mentor at every phase of his career. Even a rap mentor. As insane as that sounds, there was a guy named Jaz-O, was his mentor. Took him under his wing and actually showed him, because most people think Jay-Z just woke up one morning and decided, well, I'm going to be the best rapper that ever lived, and then just started hip-hop. Like, they thought he just started rapping and was amazing. No, he had a coach who was a guy that he was performing with that was older than him, that showed him how to build song structures and do storytelling. Because what he was naturally good at was delivery. That was what he was known for before he was known. He was good at delivery. But what Jaz-O had to teach him was, okay, you've got delivery, but you have to have something to say. And that's why he basically became a mastermind. And then when he got to the next level with Damon Dash, then he starts getting business mentors, eventually gets up to the Russell Simmons era. Now he's in pictures with Warren Buffett. He's always had business mentors, like coaches, people that have been showing him how to do what he wants to do all the way throughout. Period. Okay? But the point of that whole Jay-Z tirade is that he didn't just blow up overnight. He didn't just start making something awesome and people came and figured it out. He made something that the market wanted. All right? And it took him a couple of years to figure out exactly what that was, because when he first started rapping, he quit. And that's when, he got known as a drug, he wasn't known as a drug dealer to the public, but that's where the story of his drug dealing comes from. When he first started rapping, he and Jaz-O didn't really like the music industry, so they left. And Jay-Z built his business, unfortunately doing drug deal, the drug business. But the bottom line is you got to spend time doing research. You have to understand you do need to come up with an idea, but we're not going to spend 10 years coming up with this amazing idea. We're going to spend a little bit of time, and then we're going to test the market. Does the market have a desire for this thing that I want to do? And then what you'll find out is that what you really want to happen, this I'm going to give you an inside Ninja Academy tip here. What you really want to see happen is you want to take your idea that you're in love with, and you want to be able to mesh it together with what your market wants. And then what you have is a win-win situation. You are making something you love or like or are interested in, and making something that people desperately want to see. When you figure out how to link these two things up, that's how you get to 1,000 subscribers in a month and a half, like I've done on my other channel. My other personal channel that I upload maybe one video a week grows faster than the channel I'm talking to you on right now, because I found something that I really enjoy, which is helping people understand themselves, understand how knowing themselves affects their destiny, and then equipping them with the tools to go out and actually make that happen. And I've meshed it with things that people, that's something I'm highly interested in, but I've tweaked it such that now I can talk about it in a way that a lot of other people want to hear it. When you figure out how to do that mix, you won't be talking to me anymore about my channel's not growing anymore. You won't be able to stop your channel from growing. Like that other channel with one video a week, if I have time, because I'm extremely focused on what I'm doing here, because I have people who are paying me to be here. I don't make any other money off that other channel. I do it because I love doing it, right? Now, eventually I'll have some products and stuff tied to it, but that's a different story. The point is, here is where most of my time is focused, because I have an obligation to people who are handing me their hard-earned money. And I don't take that lightly. I take that like you are giving me, when somebody hands me money, what they are handing me is trust. And you never break trust, at least not intentionally, okay? Sometimes things just don't work out. You know, like I've had, I think, 2 people the entire time I've been doing this ask for refunds. And interestingly enough, it wasn't like some malicious, you did this to me. It was, hey man, this product that I bought, I think in one case, they just, financially, they weren't in the right spot, and it was an impulse buy, and they're like, can I please get my money back? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, here, right? Because it's not about the money. But the point is, trying to figure out how I want to say that piece of it. When you mix, or that's what I was saying, the bulk of my energy is being put into the place where people are handing me their trust. All right? And I don't take, I wouldn't want someone to take my money and waste it any more than I'd want them to take, like, for me, more important than money, because I'll pay somebody $1,000 to coach me something if they're good. I don't care. Or $2,000 or $5,000, whatever, $10,000, it doesn't matter. The money is not my issue, it's my time. Like, I want to respect people's time, because as a person who has a lot of kids, a wife, and other things to do, my time is extremely valuable. Okay, but anyway, the point there is I don't have the time, or I don't prioritize the time, because I don't think it's the right thing to do, to upload 10 videos a week on the other channel, because there's people right now, right here, who need what I'm doing, and this is a bigger priority for me. All right? But even with that, that channel is still growing faster than this one, because the niche that I found is very close to something I like to do, and I found a way to put it in terms that the other people want it. And that's because I spent a month, actually I spent the better part of this year, but I spent a hardcore month researching different angles and how can I pitch this in a way, like this is how I want to talk about it, but usually the way I see the world is very different from most people, so I've got to be able to put it in terms that other people understand, not just make it all about me, right? I've got to make it about them. How do I do it? And I spent time researching that before I ever uploaded a video, okay? And that's really the key, is you've got to do this, and this needs to monopolize your time. Not your editing, not figuring out what microphone to use or what camera to use. I have been using my phone, like I've upgraded my phone since I started the Ninja Academy. That's it. I'm not getting crazy SLR cameras right now because it's not necessary. If I were shooting, you know, independent movies, yeah. But if I'm just trying to give you knowledge, I mean, you can turn me off and just listen to me. You know what I mean? So, you've got to do the market research. It's absolutely imperative. The next thing, too, and this is a part of your market research, you've got to have your search engine optimization together. You just do. And I don't mean just doing your titles and your tags and your descriptions. I mean, as a part of, and this is really not a number 2, it's really a subset of your market research. You got to know, now once you've figured out that you have a market and that this market is interested in what you are selling, and by selling, I don't mean giving them a product and taking money. I mean, whatever it is you're trying to get them to pay attention to. Think of getting a subscriber or getting a view as just like getting paid, because it's the same thing. People are giving you their trust and their time, which to me, again, is more valuable than handing me money. So you have to Then do your search engine optimization research to make sure that once you make all these awesome videos, you understand the mechanics of YouTube and Google and other social media platforms such that other people will find it. Because here's the bottom line. Nobody is going to come looking for your video. They're going to go looking for videos. They're not going to come looking for your video. So what you have to be able to do, you have to be a ninja. You have to be able to position your video in the road where they're walking. That's what you have to be able to do. And that's what your market research tells you, is where is your foot traffic. Just like if you were to have a store in the mall, you'd want to be in the place in the mall where everybody can see you and you get the most foot traffic. You put your products and services out in front of the people, and then when they're walking by, they're like, oh snap, I didn't know they sold green pantyhose in there. Word, I need to go check that out. Right? That's all search engine optimization really is. That's the conceptual part of search engine optimization. Obviously, there's metadata and having to make sure that your copy is squared away and your titles, your tags, and your descriptions are good. But the point is, before you do any of that, you have to understand what to put in the titles and tags and descriptions. Okay? So you have to be able to get your videos out in front of the people who are looking for the information they want. Because they're not looking for you. They couldn't care less about you today. What they care about is getting an answer to their deep questions, or getting some type of entertainment or distraction from something that's bothering them. That's where a lot of entertainment comes in. So they're not going to come looking for you. They're not going to come find your channel. They're not going to see your link on YouTube and be like, let me just give this person a chance because they seem awesome. It's not. You might get one person that does that. So what you have to be able to understand how to do is how to get your videos such that other people will see them. Not maybe. Not, I hope, like people, like my son said this to me the other day. He's like, Dad, I hope one day I have a lot of money. I said, hope is not going to bring you a lot of money, ever. There's not a person in history that got a lot of money by hoping. And my son has a lot of, I imagine he's going to be a big philanthropist as he grows up, because he wants to help people and create solutions that are to problems in the world. And especially as such a young dude, he thinks about things that are very, like, he asked me earlier tonight, I couldn't believe it. This dude said, hey Dad, can you give me a book on psychology? I was like, I didn't even know he knew how to read. I didn't even know he knew the word psychology. He's like, yeah, I was reading one of my favorite kids' books, and in there they mentioned psychology, so now I want to start studying it. And so, I don't know where I was going with that part of the story, but the point is, you got to be able to get your stuff out in front of people where they're going to see it. Oh, no, I was telling my son about hope. Hope is not going to bring you money. Solving people's problems is going to bring you money. And not just the cash. Money is just a tool. That's all it is. And it's been stigmatized, and people will misquote the Bible and say, money is the root of all evil. It's not. Scripture doesn't say that, neither do any of the other Proverbs. Okay? That's not what it says. Money is not evil. It's just a tool of exchange. That's it. And the more of it you have, the more exchange you're able to do, the more freedom you have. And like Jay-Z said, I can't help poor people if I'm one of them. I can't. Okay, it's the same principle. So you got to be able to do that. I have no idea what I was going to do for number 3 under T. I probably should have wrote it down. Maybe it'll come to me at some point. But the key point here is that you have to be able to do your market research. And really what I need you to focus on, and this is the important part, you got to have your strategy figured out. Right? And while SEO in and of itself and market research are not strategy, your market research and your SEO are going to be driven by your strategy. But so my point is, strategy is what's going to govern what happens in column number 2. And the problem is that most people spend the other 10% of their time doing this. And what's worse is most people do this first. Like, I got to have a great idea, and then I got to do all this other stuff. And then let me go find out if there's a market for all these 900 videos I just made. Hey, B, why is nobody watching my channel? I've made 900 videos. Because you did 8 years of this, and then you're like, well, let me just check to see if maybe there's a market and people who actually want to watch all this crap that I just made. And the answer is no. That's why you've been doing this for 10 years and not making any progress. And I'm not saying you needed to be PewDiePie in 10 years. Everyone's going to have a different growth trajectory and a different growth ceiling because you're going to focus on different things. And the world will tell you what the world wants is distraction, especially Americans. They want to be distracted. Because if you read Sigmund Freud, you understand the hardest part of the human condition, why entertainment is so popular. It's not because it's mind control and all these other things that are going on out there. It's because of human discomfort. And when you understand the things that make humans uncomfortable and what they seek out to quell that discomfort, you begin to understand why entertainment is so powerful and why people spend so much money and time on it, and why a PewDiePie can have 50 million subscribers, whereas a person who's actually helping people build a business, or a person who's helping people, like I've seen folks teach people about, what's it called? Like natural remedies for problems. You know, that person may have 10,000 people watching him, but the guy, you know, doing fart jokes and shoving game controllers up his behind, it's because of the human condition. All right. Well, the problem is you spent all your time here, and then you went and did a little market research, probably just by watching other YouTubers, not doing legit, where do I go to do this research? Again, stuff that we teach in the Blue Belt part of our program. And by the way, the SEO part, where we teach you what this is and how to do what I'm talking about, is in the initial videos in the Green Belt. And then when you get up to the Black Belt, that's where you start talking about, okay, how do I either turn this into a business? How do I even start thinking as a business person? Or if I'm already a business person, how do I start using YouTube to improve the way that I do business? And remember, in our world, the Alloy 7 world, the We Are Stronger Than I world, our focus is on having a positive impact on the lives that we touch. If that's what you're not in the business to do, you're probably in the wrong place. If you're just looking for an opportunistic way to make money or take advantage of people, or you don't really care about anyone else, you just want to be famous, you're on the wrong channel. Because if I find people like that are working in my programs, I'll put them out. Seriously. Because the stuff that we're teaching in there, I'm not going to have folks using it to take advantage of other people just to get money from them. That's not the way we're going to roll. All right, our focus is in having a positive impact on the lives of human beings that we interact with. Because why else? What else would we do with the time we're allotted here on Earth? Why not make that type of difference? That's the type of people. That's the type of ninjas I want here. I don't want assassins, people going out and hurting people. I want the type of ninjas who will defend other people and stand for other people. Okay? So, what we need to do, and this was the funny story I want to tell you. So many of you have probably heard of a dude named Ali G. And he did this comedy video. And it so well describes everything we're talking about here tonight. And so Ali G, he basically is trying to come up with an idea for a business, and he's spending all of his time trying to come up with the idea. So he hires a business coach, and he's like, how can I just get all the women in the world to just want me? Like, that's the business he wants. Like, he's just coming up with these idiotic ideas. And throughout the course of talking to his coach, he figures out, I know what I'm going to do. So he calls a meeting with Donald Trump. And in the comedy video, Donald Trump's actually in it. He's like, I've got this wonderful idea, and what I need to do, I need to see if you'll be interested in it. And so he comes up with an idea for an ice cream glove, because his whole point is that when people are eating ice cream, it drips on their hands. And if he gets an ice cream glove, it'll keep the ice cream from dripping on people's hands. And so he pitches that to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump basically tells him to go jump off a cliff. He doesn't say it. Trump is very polite to him and just kind of walks out of the room. But then he goes to pitch it to the investors, and he's like, now look here, I'm going to make ice cream gloves, and here's our market. There's 7 billion people on the planet. Each of them have 2 hands. And it's like, so it's going to be, he said there's going to be 14 billion people in his market. And then he said their revenue was going to be, I think he said it was like $27 billion because he's going to sell so many ice cream gloves. And he's like, and then when he started talking about the marketing, because he goes all idea first. And it's such a great illustration of how people approach business and YouTube. He spends all his time coming up with the idea. Then he starts talking about, this is how we're going to market. We're going to get a naked lady riding a horse to sell our gloves. Like, completely, first of all, offensive and crass. But also, it's not congruent. Like, even if that were socially acceptable to have naked people riding horses in commercials, it's not congruent with what he's trying to sell. It has nothing to do with ice cream. And so that's what so many people are doing with their channel, is they're spending 90% of their time behaving like Ali G, trying to figure out what's this big idea that I'm going to have, and then let's go find a market that I can sell it to that has no empathy, that has no desire to impact human lives in a positive way. And that, my friends, is why it does not work. You have to do this the opposite way. Everything that you've been trained to do, you got to reverse it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch it to this 90% over here and 10% on the tactics. All right, we're going to spend 90% of our time, and if you're in my academy, this is what you spend so much of your time doing this part of it before we ever get to, and if you've read my free ebook, which is linked somewhere in the comment section, this is where I start in the ebook, is, okay, what are we going to do? You know, you do have to have an idea, but you don't need to spend months and months and months trying to come up with an idea. You know what you like, you know what you're passionate about, you know what you're curious about or could be interesting in talking about. Maybe your life is interesting and just telling your story is something people would want to listen to. Okay, great. But now how do we distinguish that from the other people who are doing it? How do we give people an incentive to come and pay attention to us? What makes us different? All right? The idea doesn't have to be insanely different. Remember, YouTube is not different than any other medium we've used throughout history. It just operates using different technology. It just replaced phone calls. It just replaced certain parts of television. And didn't replace, it more complemented it or supplemented it, depending on how you look at it. You know, email didn't get rid of snail mail, and email was not new. It was just an electronic version of something we had been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years. Or thousands of years, actually, right? Facebook wasn't new. It was just an extension of something we had been doing forever, which was getting together in large groups of our friends and communing, sharing what's going on in our lives. Meeting with other friends to say, hey, have you heard from Chris? Yeah, I talked to him the other day. Oh, tell him I said hello. Now we just do that virtually. We can reach out to Chris and say hi. There's nothing new under the sun. And you spending 90% of your time trying to come up with this magical idea, you're going to waste a lot of your time. And what you're going to do, unfortunately, is you're going to come up with an idea and you're going to put all this hard work and effort into it, and then you're going to start uploading a bunch of videos that no one watches. Then you're going to be depressed when no one watches them, and then you're going to be telling me you want to quit. Because you didn't do it in the right order. You did it backwards. You do it the right way. You figure out what it is you like, and you find a market that likes that same thing. You got to test it. You got to do your research to know, is there a market for this thing that I like? There are things that I like that there is no market for. It's just not going to be. So me wasting a bunch of time trying to create content around that idea, you know, like matter of fact, I'll give you a practical example. I started a series many years ago called Throwback Thursdays. Not original, but it was basically going back through my childhood and playing a bunch of old video games and telling the story of my life as a gamer through these games kind of chronologically. And I thought, surely there are other people on YouTube who share, not that my story is going to be amazing, but they will have shared experience. Almost like what makes comedians so great is you have shared experience. Like, oh, I do that too, it's hilarious. It's, oh yeah, I played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde too. And if you watch people like Angry Video Game Nerd, he does an excellent job of creating high quality videos around the same theme. So our videos weren't altogether that different, except his are insanely high quality and mine just looked like a Let's Play. But what I figured out was there really weren't that many people interested in those games. For example, Bruce Lee on the Commodore 64 is one of my favorite games of all time. Favorite games of all time. I still love that game, and I thought surely there's a million people on YouTube who want to hear me talk about Bruce Lee, or there's got to be a million other kids that grew up like me playing Bruce Lee. Well, there are a million other kids that grew up playing Bruce Lee, and none of them are watching YouTube for videos of Bruce Lee. As much as they love the game, they don't want to watch me play it and listen to me talk about it. So I had to have empathy. I had the idea and started launching. I launched 52 of those videos-ish, because I did one for every week of the year on Thursday. And to this day, they still don't perform very well. The SEO is good. All of the technical and tactical pieces are in there and it's squared away. But at the end of the day, had I done my homework before I started that series, instead of just assuming that because I love this thing, certainly millions of other people are going to want to watch me talk about this. It just isn't the case. And so you'll waste a lot of time coming up, this is going to be an amazing idea. You know, I had an idea for a community discussion video called Gamer Life. It's actually how a lot of you, especially in the Ninja program, came to know me, was we started doing these kind of vlog brothers like video diaries. But the topics that I wanted to discuss were too niche. The topics that most people want to discuss are the drama that's going on in the gaming industry, not the more social, philosophical part of it. To most gaming fans, those conversations were, not all, because it's how a lot of us met, but to a large majority of the audience, if I wanted to run a show like that, I'd have to have empathy and talk about things that I don't really care about. I don't want to talk about the negativity and the vitriol that's going on in the gaming community, because frankly, I think that's usually a bunch of spoiled, entitled Americans fussing about first world problems. You know, I've been in situations where friends of mine have literally not come home from combat situations because they were killed. I'm not going to sit here and complain about a video game that didn't work perfectly when I bought it and brought it home. Okay? So my perspective is very different. But if I continue making videos and praying and hoping someone's going to catch on to this, it's not to say that it can't happen. It's just, it's a waste of my audience's and my time to continue to make something that people just don't want to watch, right? So that's what you have to think about. Had I done my homework first, I would realize the things that work on YouTube in this regard are things like, I don't want to just talk about current events. Like, I talk about things that happened on Gamasutra, and if you're a gamer, if you're a niche gamer, you know what that is. Most gamers don't even know what that website is. You know, and I'm talking about these developers that put out this amazing game that nobody bought, and they almost went out of business, and everyone's like, yeah, we don't care. Anita Sarkeesian mooned somebody or whatever. You know, it's just like, all right, I'm not talking about that crap because I don't care. So we got to flip it. The 90-10 rule. 90% strategy, or in this case, 90% doing your homework, 10% doing the execution. Another analogy we can use to describe this is if you're going to go to war and you say, well, we just want to take this guy out, and that's all the time you spend, is our idea is, like the Iraq War was a little bit like that in the beginning, regime change. Let's just get in there, man. We'll figure it out, go. And it's like we got in there and started doing stuff, and it was like, okay, what do we do now? It was like, I don't know. We thought it was just going to kind of work itself out because we didn't do enough. It wasn't that they didn't do strategy. It's that the people who did the strategy, there was people who didn't listen. The people knew what they were talking about. But the point is, and I'm not talking about within my unit. I'm talking about at the people who sit on Capitol Hill level. And so you have an issue with, let's just do the thing and we'll plan it later. I'm oversimplifying, of course. Not to say we went in there with no plan. Just wasn't the optimal plan, okay? So we're going to reverse that. We're not going to make that. We're not going to go to war without understanding what is it that we're trying to accomplish, who is it that we're trying to reach, what problem are we trying to solve, and what is the desired end state. We have to have that defined before we put any boots on the ground. In this case, boots on the ground is your tactics, the things that you're going to be doing over here. Before you hit record on that camera, on that phone, on that Let's Play, you better have your market research done. You better figure out that you have an audience that actually wants to watch what you want to watch. And you better have all of the mechanics that make YouTube work built into that strategy and that plan. Otherwise, a year from now, we'll still be talking about your channel not making forward progress because you're putting too much of your effort into the things that aren't getting you a return on your investment. 90-10. You've heard of the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, where 80% of your success comes from 20% of your effort. You can look at it like that too. 80% of your time should be put over here because this is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Put 20% over here because if this is right, the little bit of effort that I'm putting over here, like I said, one video a week for 1,000 subs in a month, or almost 2 months, who else is doing that? Lots of other people. And there are people that have this figured out. It's not luck. It's not, oh, I just lucked out and got all these people watching me. It's not luck. Like, somebody even asked me on one of the videos, they're like, why did you do this video first? I'm like, because the most searches on Google and YouTube were for this video. That's math. It's just simple. Like I said, it may sound cold, but it's just simple mathematics. There's millions of people looking for this video. There's about 100 looking for this other one. Made the decision just based on math. Okay, so questions. Let's do this. Everybody following me tonight, nod your head, say yeah in the description below. Tell me, did you... so here's what I want you to tell me. You can just write yes, and you can write no. No's are welcome because they help me get better. Did you get something good out of what I'm saying tonight? Did I give you something of value? Did I get you fired up about continuing your education about how to build a brand on social media, and specifically here tonight on YouTube? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to read the ones you've sent me so far. Also, if you've been sending questions this entire time I've been talking and I haven't seen them, it's totally cool if you repost them. It's not spam. My moderators are not going to come find you and yell at you. It's totally cool. All right, Jess nods. 100% follow rate, says the Polite Canuck. Prod Charles says yes. Jenny Fedora says, oh, Reg, you're braver. Okay, she's talking to someone else. Odd Spectre, yep. Doc Collie, yes. We have a lot of ninjas here tonight, man. Excellent. Our ninjas coming to get that. See, that's what I like. Like so the ninjas are folks that are paying to be in our private program, but they come to the free stuff too. I'm telling you, put 100% of your effort into learning. It'll pay off. So good on you guys and ladies for being here tonight. Guardian Soulblade says yes. Dark Dally says yes. iFlames, yes. Red, the Third Dimension Gaming says, oh, okay, he's still talking to Jenny. All right. Jenny says, verification, we're doing the right things. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Hippie Mo Jagger says, no, but I came late to the show, so I'm just confused. Not to worry, my friend, this video will process for about 2 hours after I'm done talking, and then you can go back and watch the replay. It'll be up there for you. And it'll be in a playlist on my front page if you don't want to go digging for it. I try to make this stuff as easy for people to access as possible. YouTube's system for keeping up with videos, I'm not going to get on my soapbox about the improvements that YouTube needs to make. Everybody already knows them. AMPM Games says, yes, definitely got some value and some good tips and ideas to go research and improve. Thank you. Flucky, Loco VR, always get something from you, B. Excellent. Or is that Fluky? It's J time. What's up, BC? Ninja Squad up in here. Yes, indeed. Welcome, ninjas. Welcome. All right. Fluffy, are you up? Okay, so Dark Dally says, what if I want to refocus my channel from Fallout 4 to Shrek 2? Then basically what you're telling me is you don't want anybody following your channel. I think somebody posted in the Academy today on our private Facebook group that Markiplier actually did some Shrek 2 Let's Plays after all my fussing about it. Well said. Polite Canuck says, do you have any suggestions for doing market research for the pre-Ninja Belt peoples? I've been doing some Googling and the initial results have been unhelpful. So there's a bunch of different ways I would do it if you're not going ninja style. The best thing that I can tell you to do when you're trying to do stuff on the cheap, okay? This is, you have no money. And by the way, a lot of the market research that we do isn't necessarily something you have to pay for. But if you got no money and you've never done it before, start simple. Go find the channel who is who you want to be when you grow up. Okay? When I first started doing gaming, the person I wanted to be was Mark Busler. He and Derek Buck were basically my inspiration for my channel. Now, my stuff was a lot more academic and a lot less humorous because me being a stage performer, musician, and funny guy is a lot different than coming and doing it, writing scripts and doing it on camera. It's very different than being able to be funny in an improv situation. Okay? So it was harder for me to convey the humor and the personality that I had. So a lot of my reviews, for example, came across very academic. But they were who I wanted to aspire to be. So what I would do, and because I was doing reviews, for example, I went and I researched Angry Joe. I didn't want to be Angry Joe, but I wanted Angry Joe results. Here's what I mean by that. Angry Joe has over 100% attach rate. And that means when he had 1 million subscribers, his videos averaged 1 million views. That's insane for a channel to a gaming, not insane for a channel. It's insane for a gaming channel to have 1 million subs and 1 million views per video. That's beyond, and this Angry Joe gets props. And so he was a huge part when I was doing my competitive analysis for my channel. Because like I do reviews, I won't be able to compete directly with Angry Joe because I don't make angry content. I certainly don't make green screen special effects wearing costumes. Like I'm not that dude. I don't have that much energy to go through all that. And the purpose of my reviews were a little bit more focused on wanting to foster discussion. That's also why I stopped doing reviews, because they don't foster any discussion. They foster, either love or hate. And so I looked at all the channels who were at the top, and then I looked at Richard Review Tech because he was kind of the top of the news commentary guys. So those were kind of the 3 areas where I was playing in the gaming world. So I just looked, what are they doing? And what are they doing right? What do they do well? What are the format? Like I studied everything they did and just looked at what parts of their mechanics. Obviously, I'm not going to take their ideas and copy them, but I'm going to copy their mechanics. Okay? I'm going to copy the things that I see that are working for their channel, that are like, I'm looking at how often they upload. I'm looking at what type of content, what type of games is Joe playing? Because clearly Joe's doing market research to understand, like, why did Joe choose to play Witcher 3 over, here's a better example. Why did Angry Joe decide to play Risen over Gothic 3? What would have gone into that decision? Well, in my opinion, it's because Risen was a console game, which means it was automatically more popular, and it got a lot of hate. So it was easy to come in and do a review about that game, like Pro Jared with Two Worlds. So I looked at all the people who were at the top of what I wanted to do. I reverse engineered what they were doing, and then I started applying it. Now, I don't do that type of gaming content anymore. I do have another gaming channel, but I just kind of run it for fun because I enjoy every once in a while playing a game and talking about it. But it's also, my other gaming channel is also an experiment. I have a hunch about where YouTube is going to go in the future, because right now the type of gaming content I want to make doesn't have an audience. But I have a hunch that one day it will. So I'm staging some content that, if my prediction ends up being right, one day I'll wake up and be like, oh, these trees I planted are now fully grown. Awesome. Now, because all my other businesses are up and well-oiled and running, and I've trained all of my replacements, and I'm more owning the business besides on camera every night running it, now I might be able to just do my hobby as something, something I do that builds my brand even further. Okay, so will that work? I have no idea. That's why we have to experiment. But for you, when you're just starting out trying to do your research, go straight to the top. That's what Ty Lopez taught me. He said, go straight to the top. And he's one of my coaches, by the way, just so you understand why I reference him all the time. He's one of my coaches. I have gone and met his mentor, Joel Salatin, who imparted some just awesome wisdom into my life. So you guys have seen me on my email list. You've seen me send out the picture of me and Joel Salatin over at Joel's farm. And if you don't know who Joel Salatin is, if you've seen the movie Food Inc., he's the good guy in that movie. And so, what's it called? That's what he taught me, that principle. He's like, go straight to the person who's winning and just figure out what it is they're doing mechanically, not copy their content, but copy their mechanics. Like if I wanted to be the best, like if I could go back to being 16 and I was still having that dream of playing in the NFL, Darryl Green, one of the best defensive backs that's ever played the game, was one of my coaches. If I had been smart, I would have pulled Darryl aside and said, hey, Darryl, can you give me some one-on-one tutelage? I want to copy everything you do that makes you so awesome. Now, I'm nowhere near as fast as you, so genetically that's not going to change. But if you could teach me everything about your footwork, everything about your mindset, that when you square up on a guy in man coverage, what are you looking at? Are you looking at his hips? Are you looking at his numbers? And once he turns to run, I would get everything. Like if he puts his outside foot back, is he going to be running an inside route or an outside route? Is he trying to take me deep? His inside foot's back. Does that mean he's going to take me on a fade? Should I turn my back to the quarterback? Or should I would have gotten Darryl to teach me everything he knew. Everything. Because then, even if I'm not the most skilled naturally, when I would have showed up to college to play football, they'd have been like, this dude's footwork and everything he does is robotically awesome. And what they would know is that I had a professional NFL player, because Daryl was still playing when he would come to our games and coach. And so that you understand, where I played football, where I grew up, was close to where the Redskins trained. So they used to come out and help out with our team. And so if I could have I would have got to college, they'd be like, this dude's a freaking animal. And all the world would have been like, he's a natural talent. He's blah, blah, blah. No, he's not. He got coached by the king. That's it. He got coached by the dude who's in the Hall of Fame now. And that's what, interviews, so how are your techniques, blah, blah. My techniques, they're not my techniques. They're Darryl Green's techniques. I don't have any techniques. I just met with Daryl. He worked with me over the summer every year while I was playing. And next thing you knew, I was in the NFL doing what Daryl does, because I learned from the best. And that's what you have to do with your YouTube channels, with your businesses. Go find out who's winning. Like, if you've been on my personal channel, you've seen my primary business. He's actually a life mentor to me, because he's very close to my family. And I consider him family. He runs a multi-million-dollar, just awesome movement. And so I can go to him because he's been in business longer than I've been alive. Do you understand the amount of wisdom? He can tell me one thing that he figured out 40 years ago. And it to him, it's just like, yeah, I did this thing. It was pretty cool. And to me, it's like, he just unlocked the mysteries of the universe. Like he shares stuff with me that to him is so simple, and my brain melts because it's so amazing. That's the type of people you need to get around you. But you also need to go figure out people who are winning, reverse engineer what they're doing, and then do it that way. That's exactly how I would start. And then when you're ready for, the ninja tactics that we use, you can do the program. I could tell you some of the stuff we do here. It's literally an hour-long discussion where I am physically taking people to the place and showing them what to click on. So I couldn't do it in a video like this because you're watching me instead of watching my screen. All right. What other questions? I'm sure I missed like 10 other questions while I was saying that. Looks like you guys were talking about Joel Salatin. I missed the Joel Salatin comments. Any other questions? And like I said, I have a tendency to get long-winded. It's the blessing and the downfall of having my personality type. We like to be very thorough. We don't like being misunderstood. So a lot of times we will take a while to explain everything and not leave anything out. Just so you know that. I'm enjoying the conversation, though. You guys are clearly trying to help each other out, so that's good. S. Bell says, glad to catch you live again. I always enjoy your content. I enjoy having you. Thank you. Thank you very kindly. Yeah, Fluky, I know it's you, Loco. Hey, Wells Knight's in the place. What's up, man? Any other questions? Because if you guys don't have any questions, I can bounce. I can bounce if you guys don't have anything else. Okay, so Red says, hey, Alloy, my views have been decreasing ever since October to November. I've been doing the same thing and been uploading Japanese RPGs and what my audience likes, but the views have been stagnant. So a couple of things you have to remember. YouTube ebbs and flows. There's a couple different things that can contribute to this. I imagine it's not necessarily related to your content. If you were winning and then all of a sudden you see unless it's a catastrophic dip, if it's just kind of a run-of-the-mill, we were down a little bit this month, I wouldn't necessarily freak out, because chances are as the seasons change, people's watching habits change. So you'll start to see ebbs and flows where there's days where you get a ton of views and a ton of subscribers. I've had days where my subscribers have been up over 300. I've had days where the next day there's 7. All right, so it's one of those things where you have to not necessarily, and so basically you're measuring from October to November. It's also too small of a sample size to really make any definitive determinations. I would monitor it and look at the patterns. I'd also compare that to if you've been on YouTube, let's say for a couple of years, look at every year in that same time frame. Do you see a dip? Is it normal for your channel? Like, do all the kids who've now gone back to school and have less time to watch your stuff because now it's Halloween and now we're coming into the corridor of the holidays? You know, like I remember I've always published videos on Thanksgiving, and I remember like the first year I did this, I was like, everybody's off today. How come nobody's watching this? Like, I'm on YouTube watching videos. How come no one else is? They're like, because other people have a life. They don't have 19 children with like you sitting at home. Like, you enjoy YouTube on Thanksgiving. Everyone else is like, I'm eating turkey and partying and watching football. You're the only dude watching your own YouTube channel. So I wouldn't necessarily freak out. I'd monitor it over time. I'd compare it to previous years. See if you can collect more data before you make any definitive determinations about what's happening. Especially, like I said, if you've been winning and now it's not winning as well, that's totally natural in any type of business, any type of thing that you're going to do. What you want to monitor, though, is if that dip continues, now we start to question, okay, has the marketing become stale? Has what we are creating become not exactly what our audience like? Does our audience want us to evolve the content a little bit? You know, going back to my examples about every year you get a new iPhone. Do you need a new iPhone? No. But for the fans and the user base, they like to know that something new and innovative is coming out. So I don't think it's time to batten down the hatches and wait for the hurricane. I would watch, see what's happening, compare it to previous years. Like I said, too small of a sample size for me to give you any type of objective empirical answer. I would just keep an eye on it. All right. Let's see, jellyfish puke. All right, I didn't know they did that. It says, any tips for a Minecraft channel? Well, I can tell you the Minecraft extraordinaire is on this stream. I'm assuming he saw your question and will probably have a good answer for you. He is going to be a better person to advise you on something specific like that than I would, which is why I tell all of you should be learning from more people than just me. And you should be, like I said, going straight to the top, figuring out what the winners are doing, and then reverse engineering it and putting it on your channel. So I would do the same thing. Like, if you're looking for ideas for a Minecraft PvP channel, go figure out what the best channels that do that are doing, reverse engineer it, and apply the mechanics to what you're doing. That would be my advice to you, but I'm also not a Minecraft PvP player. So there's some nuances about that a different person will be able to give you a perspective that I simply just do not have. All right. Okay, so she was getting 30 in September. I imagine right around the time school is about to start up, end of summertime. 20,000 views in October. Yeah, I would compare that to previous year. Like, if you've been on YouTube for a number of years, look at all of your September through, like, beginning of September through the end of December. Look at the trend there. Is that something that always happens to you? Because then it may be that the audience that you have, they cut down their amount of viewership during that season. And I would compare that also to how many of your views are coming from subscribers and non-subscribers, because that would become important in your analytics. You can actually look at your watch time and your views and figure out on particular videos or overall how many of this month's 30,000 views came from subs and how many came from outside viewers, because then you can start to evaluate, okay, if that number hasn't changed, then you know, then that trend that trend may just be a seasonal thing. But let's say the amount of subscribers watching your video significantly dropped during that time frame last year and this year. Then you can say, wait a minute, am I doing something that's making my subscribers somewhat disillusioned, or did the number of, you know, unsubscribed people drop significantly? Because then maybe you have an issue with search and SEO, and someone's not actually finding your content the way that they were before. And it could be that the games that you've chosen to play in this particular season don't have the teeth in terms of allowing you to perform well in search. You know what I mean? Like, if I played right now today, I'll just give you an example. I'll use an RPG. If I right now today, so I'll make it more recent and relevant. When Square Enix sends me a copy of Final Fantasy 15, if they do it early and I get that video up versus uploading Dragon Quest Builders, I can guarantee you that Final Fantasy 15 video is going to net 50,000 views in a not very long time and probably a couple thousand subscribers. All right, so it's some of it may be the games you're playing as well. And I shouldn't say I can guarantee you. I have done that before, and I've watched it happen. So I can't guarantee it because there's no way to know for sure, but I've seen it happen and I've done it before, so I have some experience with it. All right. Boom. All right. It actually started going up when I switched networks from previous years on year. I'll look at the subs and non-subs. Usually I have a higher number of in almost every case, more non-subs are going to contribute than subs because theoretically those non-subs eventually become subs. At least a percentage of them do. I'm more looking at like if your number of unsubs has significantly decreased percentage-wise, then you may have an issue with either the game you're playing, there aren't as many people as interested in it and what you were playing in the months previous, or you may just have an issue with the metadata related to your search engine optimization isn't hitting the mark and you may need to make some adjustments there. So like I said, there's a bunch of different things that could be contributing to it. Until you have a little bit more data, I wouldn't make any definitive moves, but those are some of the questions you can begin to ask yourself as you go through your data. So Dark Dally says, I've heard people mention networks before. How does that work? It depends on the network. I do like Wells Knight's answer though. Here's the deal with networks. Once upon a time, networks were not necessarily a bad thing. They added value in that as they were growing, they had a network of other creators that they could, depending on the network, share your content with. Like I've had my content from my network shared, like my coaching stuff shared within the community, and that's brought people here that are part of what we do now. But by and large, for gamers, the reason why networks became important was when the Content ID scare of 2012 kicked off, or 2013. Networks were this safe haven that people could always run to get away from Content ID because YouTube didn't directly manage the networks. They put the onus on the networks to manage their own copyright issues. But then YouTube still got into some hot water over videos being uploaded on networks, and they basically told networks, okay, nope, now Content ID is basically gonna deal with everybody. And so at that point, networks really didn't add the value to gamers, because with gamers, it was always hard to upload content if you hadn't done a lot of the research that we did here and had permissions. Like Konami is a perpetually hard company to deal with, but I have in writing permissions. So people are always asking me, how are you able to monetize Konami stuff when I was playing games? And I said, because I went to their teams and their legal departments and I got permission to do it. I said, you may not have the connections to be able to do that. I mean, even though I teach people how to do it, not everyone was able to get it successfully. So, you know, if you didn't have that type of knowledge, a network was a great place to go, or ability, because then the network would just shield you from Content ID. But that went away, and then that little bit of value that a network was bringing you, i.e. they were allowing you to continue monetizing the videos you were making, was extremely valuable to a creator. Now that doesn't really exist. You know, and I'd say, based on my experience, unless you're a very large channel, there's not really going to be an incentive for you to join a network. There's just not. They don't really offer you anything. There's no return on your investment for giving them money. It's just not there anymore. You know, if you're a bigger channel, then they're going to work with you. They're going to do deals. They're probably going to help you get brand deals because they're going to take a cut of those brand deals and things like that. So if you're bringing them a legitimate amount of money, they're going to treat you like royalty. You know what I mean? Like I remember my my network manager, when he and I were talking about Chugga Conroy, for example, who's a quasi-famous RPG Let's Player, and because he's on my network, and we were talking about him and et cetera, because he and I had some kind of indirect interaction with some of our viewers because we had Let's played the same game. His was insanely better than mine. But the point is, if you're him, then you're probably going to have, I imagine, a slightly better incentive to be on the network than someone like me who had, I think at the time, 3,000 subscribers or something like that. So just something to think about. I don't recommend going to networks because I don't think you need them anymore. I think they charge you a lot of money for a little bit of service. It's just my take. And Wells is confirming. Now, I'm not with Curse. I'm actually with, God, I forgot their name. I'm with TGN. So, but Wells' story, my story, it's not unique. That's how most of us feel. When my time with TGN is over in, I think, August of next year, I'm not going to renew. I have no reason to. At this point, the money that I make from AdSense it's pitiful compared to the amount of money that I make coaching people and I use YouTube as a platform to reach clients so that I can help them, and that by helping them with my time and my skills, they're willing to pay me. So I can make, with a very small channel, I can make thousands of dollars in a month that AdSense is never ever going to pay me. You know what I mean? And that's still not even the bulk of where what I do here on YouTube is still not the bulk of my income. So what is the network? The network's certainly not giving me any better pay. And even if they were, I would never use, for me, I'd never use AdSense as my model to get paid. Because it's not the amount of time I'd have to put in to make AdSense profitable. It doesn't make sense for the way I run my business. If I were more of an entertainment channel, there may be more reason for me to do that because I'd be making much more frequent, targeted content, and be able to get a lot of viewership. What I do here, 2.5 to 3 hour coaching videos, you're not going to get 1 million views on that. I don't care how big I get in the first week. To me, that it'll be profitable over time because people will find it. A lot of this content is evergreen, so over time it'll get a lot of growth. But in that short term where you need to be putting out videos that are getting you the views to get you paid, that's not the way I run this channel. So a network for me does absolutely nothing because their only pricing model for someone who's not making them millions of dollars by bringing them viewership, they don't have an incentive to really help me out. AMPM says, can you get rights to use EA games up? AMPM, copy and paste that question, man. I missed it. Let me see if it's on here. No, it's gone off my screen up here too. Yeah, what Polite Canuck said. Do what he said. Yeah, basically what Electronic Arts told me many moons ago is, look, we basically work directly with YouTube. We don't typically take issue with creators making stuff, and this is just me and them talking in passing. At the time of the discussion, they didn't have anything published on their website, but it was like, look, we're typically not going to have an issue, and if YouTube has an issue, we'll take it up with YouTube if we have an issue with your stuff and deal with it that way. So EA's never been a problem for me. The only time I ever got a content claim on an EA game was a Madden game back when Madden used to have licensed music in their games. And so it wasn't Madden, it was the whatever Puff Daddy song, whatever song was playing. Guardian Soulblade says, I can't figure out AdSense and minimum payout is something I can reach on a network. I'm not sure I understand that comment or question. Okay. Any other questions for me? I'm happy to let you all continue talking, if you please. But if you have any other questions for me, now is the time. And I do want to say I appreciate everybody hanging with us. I know these videos go a little bit long, but it's because sometimes valuable information takes more than 7 minutes to get out to people. But I do appreciate your attention. I do appreciate all of you commenting and helping other people. That's really what the whole ninja mindset is about here. That really embodies the we are stronger than I that I talk about all the time. And that's just not a funny cliche to me. I truly believe the we are stronger than I with my whole heart. And that's because I had to learn in my life the hard way that I needed other people to help me. So the stuff that I beat you guys over the head with over and over again is because I learned a lot of it the hard way. I don't want you to have to. So we are stronger than I is not some stupid cliche I came up with that sounds cute. It's literally, if you want to be strong, you're going to need more than just you to make it work. And it's also, I say it all the time because it's a reminder to me of the places I've been in my life that were kind of dark and not all that fun, the stuff we never talk about on video because we want everyone to believe our lives are perfect. I learned in those places that I got there alone, right? Pain shared is pain divided. Pain not shared is pain multiplied. You may have heard that quote. So when I see other people helping other people, that's what this is all about. Because I learned that we all need other people if we're ever going to succeed. Okay? Oh, somebody else wrote a question and I missed it. Let me see if I can scroll up. It'll be off camera for a second. Hopefully you all won't mind too terribly. Hey, Alloy, if I upload Pokemon without the audio from the game and with commentary, will that get claimed? I have no idea. I don't play Pokemon. I don't know much about Pokemon. I have no clue whether or not that video will get claimed, unfortunately. I wish I had more information for you. Let's see. Hey, Alloy. Okay, so you repost. Yeah, I no idea. I've never played a Pokemon game. Have I ever played a Pokemon game? Yeah, I had a Nintendo DS once. I think I had it for like a month and I traded it for a PSP and now I don't play any of it. But I think I played Pokemon once. Was like, oh, I kind of get it. This is cool. And then an hour later, I was like, okay, I'm bored. So that's about the extent of my Pokemon experience. And I'm not saying that to try to be funny or a jerk. I'm trying to convey to you that I have no idea the answer to that question. That is not Pokemon is not in this young man's wheelhouse here. How about copyright from indie games? It's kind of hard to find their license agreement. Sometimes there's no site at all. That's true. So when you can't find information, you fall back on YouTube's policy, which if you Google YouTube monetization policy, you'll see two things. One, a link from Google that shows you the policy, and then my video that explains what all that means. So I would go read that, then watch that, and then you should be squared away. BC, any advice on a social media marketing strategy that's not mainstream? Or should I stick with a formula that works? I'm not sure what you're trying to ask me there. Why don't you define what you mean by mainstream? So when we talk about strategy, and we talked about this in a prior video, strategy is not, I'm gonna upload 8 things on Twitter a day and 3 posts on Facebook. Strategy is really understanding where you're going to play and where you're not going to play. That's the long and short of strategy. It's really not as complicated as we make it. It's just not easy to implement. So when you're talking about marketing on social media, really what you're doing, marketing, you need to see marketing and storytelling as congruent.